Now it's time for our mission spot, and for our visitors, our mission spot is where we encourage our members to be more mission-minded and to equip ourselves for the mission that we have here in the Macleay. And for today, for mission spot, what I thought I'd do is hopefully the first of a few mission spots over the course of the next few weeks, as I'm able. And they're based on a book, hopefully, that I read last year. It's by Carl Trueman, and it's called The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, which I also talked about last week. Now, this is a book primarily about where we are as a society and culture, explains why we are where we are here at this point in history, as it identifies influences that have shaped the West, especially how we've come to be a society that so prizes expressive individualism, especially in the area of sex. But what I hope to achieve in these mission spots is not primarily to gain a better understanding of culture, so much as better understanding how the sins out there have also become the sins in here. To me, it's a bit like the book of Judges. The first judge is quite good, and he embodies all that's good about Israel just after Joshua. But by the time we get to the last judge, Samson, all the things that are wrong about Israel, all the idolatries they were committing, are embodied in him. And my conviction is that if we want to be credible witnesses to be people out there, we need to be dealing firstly with the sins in here. In other words, one of our biggest problems is that we don't even know how the world has discipled us. But we need to identify it, and we need to fight against it if we want to be people who truly provide an alternative to the world. Now, so the first thing I want to address today is not something that is going to blow your mind away, but it's something that most of us intuitively understand, and it's the role of technology. Obviously technology is something we all know that's progressed rapidly in the last few decades, but a way of thinking that Christians can often hold rather naively is to think that technology is simply an enabler. That is, technology is an enabler, isn't it? It enables us to get to the ends of what we want more easily. It's, whether it's movies or whether it's connecting with friends, it's about means to an end. But we often think that technology is rather neutral in doing that and doesn't affect our hearts. But that's something that's simply not true. For example, let's think of the way that we could use technology within the church. One well-meaning fellow once suggested to me that I should try and expand my influence and move everything online and make everything on demand. Like, on-demand talks, on-demand Bible studies, on-demand worship. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot to be benefited from things being on demand, but to do that as a church really would be to agree with the modern idea that a person's desires at any moment is king. As they say, the means is the message. And that's true in this case. If the means of being in fellowship with God and His people is simply in on-demand ways, no matter how good the content, would actually be giving people the implicit message that really they are king. The means of doing church would be sabotaged. Would be sabotaging all that we were trying to be doing as a church. We're here to make disciples, not consumers. But there's even more to that too. Technology has basically taught us that we can pretty much do anything. Just think of anything you want, and technology can get it done for you these days. You want something, get it on Amazon. Want to watch a movie? Go on Netflix. Information, all on the internet, at your fingertips. Every holiday, every meal, every show is accessible with a click of a button. Now, even medical advances, you think, in plastic surgery, we can have the bodies that were once beyond our grasp, now it's within our grasp. Now, hormonal therapy. You might think that men can't have babies. Well, we can plausibly foresee a time where we might just be able to do that. I don't know why you would, but some people do. Carl Trueman helps us see that how this has been so influential in enabling what we see in the sexual revolution. It's because of technology we can even talk about men transitioning to women. But I think the uncomfortable fact that remains for us is that we too are shaped by this modern mindset that everything should be within our grasp as well. Technology, that is a massive contributor to human beings, us Christians too, being far less patient than we ought to be. It's taught us to be impatient consumers, where the world should revolve around us and our desires, even though the content we might consume might not actually use those words. Again, the means is the message. Even though we might be using technology to tune into podcasts saying that God and Jesus is King, nevertheless, the use of technology to access these things teaches us that we can be king, we can do anything, and we should be gratified immediately. However orthodox our theology might be, we might be unwittingly learning in our bodies something rather unbiblical. Now, how do we fight this? Well, two things I think we ought to consider is first, we can take steps to intentionally reduce our technology intake. For example, we can restrict our access to TV. We could restrict our access from Facebook. We can, even better, implement a Sabbath, which literally the Hebrew word means stop. Stop once a week. Stop doing stuff and getting stuff done and achieving stuff. But second, as a positive step, we can also introduce low-tech activities in our lives. Well, one such example is gardening. Now, I wouldn't have said that 2 years ago, but I have taken up gardening myself, that's why. Even though I say that gardening is not a perfect example, because even that we can use technology to make it just really efficient and do everything we want. But generally speaking, gardening helps us to remember that we fit into a bigger order, larger than ourselves. We can't just plant. We can't plant basil in winter. Maybe you can, I don't know. But I'm not that good at gardening, obviously. We can't plant things at the wrong time anyway. We have to watch the seasons. We have to wait. It teaches us that we are not in control, and these things help rewire our bodies to learn that we are contingent and dependent beings. And of course, there's heaps of other benefits in gardening too, like thinking about how the garden growth is very much like kingdom growth. It's very organic. Now, there's obviously heaps more that can be said about this today, but suffice to say we need to be wise about technology and the way that we are unwittingly being discipled by the world. We shouldn't be unwittingly discipled by the world. We need to actually take control of our discipleship and build in habits to teach our minds and our bodies and learn that Christ is King. And I think if we do that, we'll not only be better disciples, but also better disciple makers too. Patient ones. So there you go. That's the first installment of something I'm going to present to you from this book. Be wise to technology and how we are being discipled by the world.